Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are digging into one of the most fascinating, well, strategic puzzles in boxing right now. We're talking about Moses Itauma, the 20-year-old British heavyweight phenom,
Yeah.
and the hype. It's massive. I mean, you've got Tyson Fury calling him a future wrecking ball.
Yeah, that's
Huh.
that's not praise you hear every day, especially from Fury. And look, Itoma isn't just, good. He's potentially historic. He's going after Mike Tyson's record youngest ever heavyweight champ. Tyson was 20 years, 4 months. So Itoma needs that title before April 2025. That date is just hanging over everything.
Right. That's the core conflict here, isn't it? It's a race against time. So our mission, what we want to figure out for you today from the sources is this. Why would a fighter chasing that specific record deliberately turn down the absolute fastest guaranteed path to a world title shot? It seems backwards.
It really does sound counterintuitive on the surface. But when you look at the boxing news, the interviews, the transcripts we've gone through, it paints a picture of really careful, strategic risk management. It's like they're choosing career length over maybe rushing to a peak he's not quite ready for. That immediate title shot, they decided it was too big a risk right now for the long-term plan. We really need to unpack that trade-off. Okay, let's unpack this. But before we get to why he said no, we need to understand the foundation, right? I mean, the confidence to reject a guaranteed title shot. That comes from believing you're destined for it anyway. So tell us a bit about how this phenom came to be. Well, his background's pretty unique, actually. And it hints at maybe where some of that drive comes from. He was born in Slovakia, Nigerian father, Slovak mother. Then they moved to England when he was young. That kind of journey, different cultures, it probably builds a certain discipline early on, Started boxing at 7. Apparently his older brother, Karol Itauma, who's a decent light-heavy prospect himself, got him into it.
But Moses, he pretty quickly showed he was something else entirely. The amateur record was, well, perfect. 24 wins, 0 losses, and the sources kept highlighting one specific thing. 2022. He becomes the first British fighter ever to win both the European and the World Youth titles.
In Spain, right?
Exactly. At the IBA Youth Worlds. And it wasn't just, like, points victories. This was dominance. He stopped 4 out of 5 guys in that tournament. That shows you the power, the maturity, even back then. That's the kind of pedigree that makes people think, okay, this isn't just talent, this is maybe generational stuff.
And that power, it just carried straight over into the pros. Didn't miss a beat. His pro record now, 13-11 knockouts. He is not messing around. Debut KO in 23 seconds. But the one that really made everyone sit up, the one that shifted him from hot prospect to, immediate contender, that TKO of Dillian White back in August, what was it, 19 seconds? Yeah, 19 seconds of the first round.
Yeah.
Just like that. And it's that speed combined with his size. That's what makes him such a nightmare for opponents. He's 6'4".
Yeah.
He fights southpaw, which is always awkward.
Yeah.
And he's got this incredible blend of sheer size and athleticism, but also boxing smarts. You hear people say it all the time. Body of a heavyweight, reflexes of a middleweight. That's a scary combination in this division.
Makes him incredibly hard to prepare for, I'd imagine. So technically speaking, beyond just the power and speed, what are the tools that make him stand out?
It's his ring IQ, really, and how he controls the distance. That right jab, remember, he's a southpaw, so his lead hand is described as crisp, accurate, disruptive.
Yeah.
Uses it to score, yeah, but also just to control things, keep opponents off balance. And crucially, the sources mentioned his footwork is phenomenal. He can land hard and then just pivot out, hit and not get hit. That's the goal, right? That's why people are so keen to see him actually get tested, go some rounds.
Okay, so we've established generational talent, flawless record, terrifying power and speed, and that Tyson record clock is ticking like crazy. Which brings us right back to that pivotal moment, the crossroads, rejecting the golden ticket.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty stunning when the news broke. Itauma, he's with Frank Warren, Queensberry Promotions, turned down an IBF final eliminator against a very legitimate Cuban contender, Frank Sanchez.
Okay, let's slow down here for a second, because for you listening, we need to be crystal clear on what he actually said no to. This whole alphabet soup in boxing, IBF, WBO, WBA. What exactly is a final eliminator, and why are we calling this the golden ticket?
Right, so think of it like a semifinal for the world title. If you win that IBF eliminator fight, you automatically become the mandatory challenger for the IBF belt. No ifs, ands, or buts. And that belt is currently held by Oleksandr Usyk, the undisputed champ. So this was literally the shortest, most direct, guaranteed route to fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship. They essentially passed on a confirmed shot at the king.
And not against some pushover either. Frank Sanchez, 25-1 record. He's a serious operator.
Yeah.
Trained by Eddie Reynoso, Canela's guy. He's known as a smooth mover. Uh. He dropped Ife Ajagba, a big puncher, and outboxed him pretty handily. This wasn't an easy fight by any means.
Definitely not. Sanchez, okay, he got dominated by Arjacabiel recently, but stylistically, he's exactly the kind of slick, technical boxer who could give a young power puncher fits. He makes you miss, controls the pace, uses his brain. It would have likely been Itama's first real test over 10 or 12 rounds, professionally, against someone who could potentially expose things.
But hang on, if the Tyson record is the goal, isn't saying no here a massive gamble itself? I mean, what if Usyk hangs up his gloves soon? The belts fragment. Itama might lose that clean shot at Undisputed, making the record chase pointless. Is the patience really worth risking that direct mandatory path?
That's the absolute crux of their dilemma. And based on what we've read, the camp decided the immediate risk of fighting Sanchez now was just too high. They seem to be looking beyond April 2025, even if it means missing the record. Sanchez's own co-manager apparently questioned if Itama was maybe a bit too green for Sanchez at this exact moment. The whole strategy seems geared towards being built for a 15-year career, not just a quick peak.
And this is where that historical perspective comes in, the advice he reportedly got. We know who gave him some key counsel, Lennox Lewis, former Undisputed champ himself. Lewis apparently told Itama basically, wait until Usyk retires before you even think about a title shot.
And that advice, coming from Lewis, it carries huge weight. Lewis's own career was all about smart timing, development, not rushing. He learned, he matured, he waited for his moment. Contrast that with Mike Tyson. Broke the age record, yes, but burned out incredibly fast. So Lewis's advice is essentially saying, prioritize being ready to win and hold the title, not just grab it quickly and potentially lose it. Build the foundation properly.
It shows incredible discipline, really, calculated caution. But this cautious approach, it also seems validated by the man at the top himself, Alexander Usyk. We need to talk about Usyk's situation because it kind of creates the perfect conditions for Itama's team to play this waiting game.
Absolutely. Usyk's got all the belts, IBF, WBO, WBC, WBA, undisputed. But he's resting. He needs it. Think about his last couple of years. 4 enormous, draining fights in just 2 years. 2 against Joshua, 2 against Fury. That's an unprecedented run, physically and mentally, especially for a guy nearing 40. It takes a toll.
Just watching that schedule is exhausting. Can't imagine fighting it. His team must want him wrapped in cotton wool right now.
Exactly. And Usyk's own camp seems to agree with Itauma holding off for now. Sergey Lapine, who's Usyk's CEO, he acknowledged Itauma is the future for boxing. He said that. But then he explicitly said, fighting Usyk right now is not good for Moses. They think Itauma still needs that first serious fight against a top-level guy before challenging the undisputed champ.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because rejecting the IBF shot, while maybe smart for development, doesn't totally take the pressure off, does it? Itu Choma is already ranked #1 by the WBO and #1 by the WBA. He's still right at the front of the queue for those belts.
That's the strategic tightrope they're walking. Yeah, they dodged the immediate IBF mandatory wise move maybe, short term. But he can't just sit around. He has to stay active, keep winning, defend those high rankings, all while hoping the timing works out. Usyk retires or shows weakness. But before that April 2025 deadline makes things desperate. It means he needs fights, quality fights that give him rounds, not just more 20-second blowouts.
Right. He needs that experience, needs to feel some pressure beyond the first minute. So what's the plan now? They've strategically torn up the guaranteed title shot map. What's next?
Well, he's penciled in for December 13th, 2025, back in Manchester. Sounds like a pretty big card, actually. Derek Chisora, the British heavyweight legend, is supposed to be on it too. His 50th fight, maybe his last. For Itauma, the goal is finding an opponent who forces him to work, forces him into those middle or later rounds. They need someone who can provide like a 10 or 12 round education, win or lose on the cards.
And the sources are pointing towards 2 main names for that job, right? Both seem chosen specifically to provide experience, not just another quick KO. Who are they looking at and what's the thinking behind each one?
Okay, first up is David Adlai, a British rival. Adlai's been fighting sort of just above that domestic British level. He lost to Filip Pergovic last time out, but the word is he carries power, he's tough, and he'd be motivated. A fight with Adlai would likely be a physical scrap, maybe force Itauma to dig deep, take a few shots, think on his feet over several rounds. That's valuable seasoning.
Okay, Adlai for the physical test. The second name mentioned is maybe more intriguing, Michael Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter. Often called the heavyweight's forgotten star. He's a really skilled, dangerous American boxer who a lot of the top guys have seemed to, well, avoid Very awkward style. Hasn't fought professionally since late 2024, apparently due to some issues with promoters, Don King threatening legal action, that kind of mess. But he's seen as available, and technically, he's very sound. Hunter could provide a really tricky technical puzzle. He'd force Itauma to rely on his boxing brain, his footwork, probably for the full 12 rounds. Not just power through. Hunter's the kind of guy you learn a lot from, even if it's tough.
So Adelaide brings the power and the domestic rivalry grit. Hunter brings the technical awkwardness and the need for sustained boxing IQ. You can see the strategy there. It's about the learning, not the highlight reel.
Exactly. Look, there were whispers about bigger names. Deontay Wilder maybe, though he's likely having another tune-up in the U.S. They apparently tried for Zhilei Zhang and Filip Rogovich too. But right now, the priority has to be getting those rounds, building that experience base. They simply can't risk throwing him into another mandatory pressure cooker too soon and potentially derailing everything. Every minute in the ring against someone decent who
We
isn't
hope you are
necessarily
enjoying our
elite yet
podcast.
is building
If you'd like
towards
to help us
facing
continue to
Usyk
provide
or
you
Fury
quality
down the line.
content, we
So
would
when
welcome
you
your
boil it all
generosity.
down, the
In the
story
comments
around Moses
section, we have a
Itauma is
link
this
to make a
fascinating
donation.
balancing act.
Every £1
You've got
we
this
receive
immense,
will help
almost
us bring
raw
you
talent
dynamic
being
and
guided with
reliable
some
sporting
real veteran
content.
wisdom.
Thank
His
you in
team is
advance for
juggling the
making the
understandable
effort for
ambition
us.
break Mike
£1
Tyson's
in
record
isolation
with that
is very
Lennox
little,
Lewis style
but every
thinking.
pound added
Protect the
together
asset,
adds up
build
to a
for the long
substantial
haul, aim
contribution
for
to us.
legacy.
Yeah, and if we
So don't
connect
be
this to the
shy,
bigger
click the
picture,
link and donate
that note to the
£1
Frank
today.
Sanchez fight, it wasn't
Thank you
running
for your
away.
support.
It looks
Now
more
back
like
to
a
the
necessary
podcast.
pause, a strategic